You're listening to Cardiff City World on Cymru Sport Radio, live from the Welsh capital. The most interactive football show in Wales, featuring guests, fan opinion, and all the latest news surrounding Cardiff City. Have your say and get in touch now. The home of Welsh sport. This is Cymru Sport.
Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World and the Welsh Football Hour, live on Cymru Sport. We're also live on Cardiff City World if you prefer your video, but we are here for special guests, analysis, debates, latest news, and a lot more. There's lots to discuss this week, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I am delighted, with no further ado, to bring in the first guest of this evening, and that is Luke Robinson from the Up the Villa podcast. How are you, mate? You good?
Yeah, mate, I'm really good, thank you.
Big game tomorrow. Friday now, isn't it? Losing track of the days I am. It's a big game for us. Is it? And I say that it is a big game. We've sold out all the tickets. We're all excited to go. Well, everyone except me. But actually, it's a bit of an inconvenience, if I'm quite honest. Like, we've got obviously a relegation battle. We've had a big 6-pointer game yesterday. We've got injuries galore. So it is a bit of an inconvenience in some ways for Cardiff, where it's fallen. And I think we'll play a very, very young side on Friday, which is not what I don't think the manager wants to do. And I don't think it's what the fans want, particularly the fans who are travelling. But it's needs must. Is that kind of the same for Villa as well, mate?
Probably not what you want to hear. Probably not, no, because...
I was going to say, it's a trophy you can win, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Villa, we haven't won a trophy since 1996, and we haven't won the FA Cup since 1957, and in that time, we've won quite a lot of them. So it's been a long time. So for Villa to get into the round of 16 and hopefully the quarterfinals, it's sort of a bit of uncharted territory for us, really, especially in the FA Cup. Like you, we've got quite a lot of injuries, defensive injuries, central midfield injuries. So it's a game that I think we're going to take very seriously. I think obviously we're having a good season within the Champions League. We're trying to qualify for Europe, and this is a way of also getting into Europe as well. So I think at the start of the season, it probably wasn't a Villa priority to win the FA Cup, but I think now, while the opportunity is here, I think it's something that we'll probably be taking very seriously.
Great. No, I really loved the FA Cup. See, for me, I grew up on it, and it was the first, as a young kid, like the FA Cup was sort of the first cup competition which I really got into. Well, it's certainly a club level, international. It was I had a VHS of the 1970s World Cup with all the Brazilians and stuff, But in terms of like domestic competitions, the FA Cup was it. Like, and Cardiff particularly have got so many memories over the years, quite iconic ones, like Nathan Blake scoring against Manchester City, the Leeds United game, obviously getting to the final versus Portsmouth, things like that. Like things which not only stick out for Cardiff fans, but also fans of other clubs that, know those moments. What are some of your favourite moments of Villa over the years in the FA Cup?
I think probably one of the first moments when I realised what supporting Villa was like. We got to the final of the FA Cup in 2000 against Chelsea, but it was the semi-final that I went to as a young kid. And to go to the old Wembley and just feel what going to Wembley was like as a kid is, it was such a special day, and it's a memory that I've really got. And I always remember that game went to penalties, and me and my brother, we started cheering when it went to penalties. And I just remember all these like blokes turning round to us going, what, why do you want it to go to penalties? But it was just young, and as a kid, penalties are like such a sort exciting, of like a fun thing. So I've got that. We got to the final against Arsenal. I think it was in 2015, and we got absolutely battered. But the semi-final, we beat Liverpool, and Benteke scored the winner. That's a fond memory. Apart from that, I think that's about it. I think most fans like Arsenal and Man United have the memories of Giggs sort of shirt off at Villa Park in the semi-final. So I think if you ask a neutral about Villa in the FA Cup, they'll probably think of the semi-finals at Villa Park, really. But yeah, we've not fared too well in the FA Cup in recent times. So those are probably some of my fondest memories.
In terms of team selection, obviously you had a midweek game, same as us. Do you think the manager will rotate heavily?
I would hope so. I mean, we played Crystal Palace on Tuesday, and honestly, it's probably the worst we've ever played under Emery. It was that bad. And then you looked at the bench and we've got Rashford, Asensio, Marlon, all on the bench, not starting. So I would imagine that some of those will be starting in this game. I think especially Marlon. We've signed Marlon from Dortmund, and he's not really featured too much under Emery. So I think he's probably going to get his first start. Defensively, we're probably going to have to bring back Tyrone Mings because Disasi can't play. Maatson will start at left back. Just central midfield is where we've got problems because we've got Onana out, Kamara out, Barkley looks like he's coming back now. So, yeah, that area we're probably not going to be able to rotate with. Does he rest Watkins? Does he rest Rodgers? I think those are some of the questions for our sort of lineup.
Indeed, yeah, it'll be fascinating because I do wonder whether, like, I know with the FA Cup, I think, particularly if you're in a relegation battle or you're in a title battle or whatever it may be, and other things are your priorities, you'll often hear from the manager. Our manager said last night, look, it's almost you're stuck between two things where you want to go and do your best and you want to play in these big games against Premier League opposition, etc. But also the league is our focus. And I do wonder sometimes where the managers kind of say that, and then they get to the day before or whenever they select the team, and they get caught up with it, and they just go a bit stronger than perhaps they would or were thinking. Cardiff, I think, will be a big mix. I do think you'll see a few youngsters in there, but we have got a couple of squad players who would do probably a start. Like El Ghazi is one of them. He only played, I think, 10 minutes, 11 minutes yesterday. So I don't think. I think he starts. I think Callum Chambers may be on the bench because he played a good hour yesterday for the first time in a couple of weeks. And obviously Callum Robinson, all three of them are ex-Villa players. Have you got any memories of the three?
Yeah, I mean, fond memories, really, especially of El Ghazi. He was instrumental in us getting promoted to the Premier League. He scored the first goal at Wembley. And I think I remember at the time when he was sort of fasting and he just put in this massive performance at Wembley for us, and he was just absolutely incredible. A player that a lot of Villa fans hold close to their hearts, really, of that team with Dean Smith, Grealish, fond memories. And Robinson, who was a player that I used to watch as an academy player. At that time, our academy brought through so many really good players like Daniel Johnson, Jack Grealish, and he was a part of that sort of era at Villa's academy. So he's a player that I've always looked at and wanted to just do really well for Villa, really. And I've checked his career out, where he's been playing, etc. And Chambers, he's a model pro. Probably just wasn't at Villa at the right time, but always did a really good job for us. Scored an absolute beauty against Leeds United at Ellen Road. So, yeah, all three of them, really. Sometimes you have players that you just can't wait to see the back of. These players are not like that at all, really. So, I imagine they'll all get a really good reception at Villa Park.
Yeah, I think El Ghazi is, I think I said on your podcast on Monday, he's a really interesting one because I think everybody knows the quality he's got. But when he came to Cardiff, he just hadn't played for so long. It took him ages to kind of get up to speed where you thought he was starting to get fit and then he got injured. And then he came back recently against Millwall and he looked really motivated. And you thought, oh, here we go. Now this is going to be it. And then he's kind of been in and out of the side a little bit over those next couple of weeks. I firmly believe that there's a really, really big player there. Like I genuinely think that if we can get him 100% fit and he's motivated, he's probably one of them who's too good for the Championship. And I look at this Cardiff side at the moment, and we have actually got, it sounds ridiculous when we're where we are in the league, but I think we've got probably 3 players in El Ghazi, Robertson, and Manswerk, who we signed on loan from Ajax in January. I think they're all too good for the Championship, but for different reasons, they're in the Championship at the moment. Obviously, in Alex Robertson's case, he's 21. He was at Manchester City. He moved to play regular football. El Ghazi, obviously, as we mentioned, hasn't played for a while. And then Manswerk has come in, and it took him a game or two just to find. I think he was a bit shocked by the intensity of the Championship and the speed of it. But now he seems to be really loving it. And I actually hope he plays on Friday, because he's a sort of player who won't kind of coast by and think, oh, we're not expected to win this game anyway. He'll put himself about and get stuck in. Callum Chambers, I think he struggled for Cardiff. I think at the start at centre back, it just looked like the Championship was quick, and just a bit teams were getting in behind him, and it just seemed like he was getting not overawed. I don't want to say that because I don't want to be disrespectful, but he just seemed like he wasn't quite at his best, shall we say. And then as soon as Omar Risa moved him into the central midfield area, he's been flying. And even again yesterday, he came in, started, probably not fully fit, gave us an hour, and he was pretty faultless. He played, I think you said on Monday, he played a game for you in sort of defensive midfield as well, didn't he?
Yeah, it was sort of it was our last home game last season, and he hadn't played for ages, and we were playing Liverpool. And honestly, he came on and he changed the game for us. I remember Duran scored a goal, and it all came from Callum Chambers pressing. So I think when he was at Villa, he hardly played. He wasn't playing any football. And I think sometimes it takes players a bit of time when they've not played to get back up to speed and get in the groove of it, really. So I think CDM is his best position. He played, I think the beauty of him is he's versatile. So he can play right back, centre half, CDM. But I think CDM is where he excels. I think he played there for Arsenal. I think that's where he played his games at Arsenal. So, yeah, there's definitely a player there. But I think for someone like Chambers, he's got to play regularly. He's got to get in that groove, really.
Yeah, I think there's been a big improvement in him where he's been in midfield and then he's playing every week, and he's getting that, like you say, getting in the groove, and he's good on the ball as well. It's not just, he's good at pressing and tackling. He's decent on the ball, which helps in that role as well. We had a couple of questions in the chat for you, mate. One of them was, is there any players in your academy that we should look out for, which may play on Friday, but also that we may look at loan-wise in the summer?
No, I don't think there's any that'll play. We've got this really shining light of a player called Ben Broggio. He's a bit of a Grealish, low sock dribbler. He's a player that is doing really well actually in our academy. We've got Louis Barry, who I think he got injured against you guys. He's sort of been in our academy, but he's a bit more of like a senior pro, really. Getting towards that now. He's nearly 22, I guess. So those are like some of the players. But yeah, we've got Bogard, who's a young lad that plays for us. We've got a lot of players like Ealing Jr., who's at Middlesbrough that we bought, Baronetcha that's at Valencia. So what Villa tend to do is that we don't really have our youngsters playing in the academy. We send them out on loan to sort of like different clubs and let them play that type of football. I always remember we had Perslow as one of our CEOs, and he said if you're sort of like 20, 21, 22 and sort of like you're in the Villa academy, then that's no good, really. You need to be playing at a higher level. So our sort of model is that we send them sort of out on loan. So when we do play sort of like youth games, we played Bradford in that sort of, is it the Virtue Cup or something? And like we were playing their sort of like senior team. And like our team was made up of like 16 and 17-year-olds. And that's sort of like what we sort of do, really.
Yeah, you send the sort of slightly older, younger players out and then keep the young ones. I think that's a good model. We've sent a couple out on loan this year as well, which I think will come back hopefully next year, well, in the summer, and be pushing for first team spots. But you never quite know until some of these kids play, men's football. Ultimately, it can be not make or break, but some of them take to it like a duck to water, and then some of them, can take them a year or two to really adjust to the physical side of it. Because under 18s and under 21s football or development football, at the Premier League or the Championship, it's good and it's a good system to get players ready, but there's just such a big difference between playing an under 21s competitive game to playing a Premier League game or a Championship game. The intensity and the physicality and the technical ability of the players, I think, it's just a step above, and I think it's difficult. And each player's progress is also not linear, and it's not the same for every single player. So it's not as simple as sending someone on loan. They play a season of men's football, they come back, and then they go into the first team, because everyone is different. So it's an interesting way of doing things for sure. With regards to Emery as the manager, happy with him? Happier than you were under Steven Gerrard?
Definitely. I've still got last night in my mind, so I'm absolutely fuming with him with what team he selected. But apart from that, he's been fantastic. He came in, took over from Gerrard, and we were near the bottom of the Premier League, took us straight into the Conference League. Next season, took us into the Champions League. This season's been a little bit more difficult. Is it understandable that we're playing in the Champions League and our intensity is elsewhere? Possibly, but we've just got to sort out our away form. Home form is brilliant. We've only lost one game at Villa Park, and that was to Arsenal this season. So, we're doing okay. We've just got to make sure we qualify for some form of Europe and hopefully win the FA Cup and go deep in the Champions League.
I think it's interesting. I think you look at Newcastle last year when they were in the Champions League, they struggled. And then in January, they didn't really add a great deal of quality to their squad. Whereas I look at what you guys have done in January, and I think, see, that's clever, because you obviously had that additional competition of the Champions League. It's obviously the hardest competition in Europe. So bringing in players like Rashford and Asensio, experienced players, but also players, if they play at their best, they're almost unplayable. So it could work out really well for you as the season goes on.
Yeah, we've sort of been really clever, really, and sort of not just resting on our laurels, which is what I quite liked. We could have just got to January and thought, okay, we got into the top 8 of the Champions League, we've qualified for the knockouts. Let's just chill and just go with that, but we didn't. We sort of thought, do you know what? We can still try and climb the table in the Premier League. We can try and actually go deep in every competition. And I think, like you say, Asensio's won the Champions League with Real Madrid 3 times. Rashford is a match winner. I think that there was a lot of talk about Rashford attitude coming to Villa, but honestly, he's been fantastic for us in the games that he's played. He's looked bright, vibrant, he's pressing, he's running, which is everything that we got told he can't do. So I think I liked what we did in Jan, and yeah, we just need to sort of just get our away form sorted, really.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll be talking tactics in just a second. Just gonna play you a nice little jingle.
The home of Welsh sport. This is Cymru Sport.
Welcome back. I'm with Luke Robinson from the Up the Villa podcast, Up the Villa fan channel, should I say. So what I wanted to kind of finish off with you, Luke, is talk to us a little bit about, regardless of what the 11 may be, if there's a bit of rotation on Friday, how will Villa look to get at Cardiff, and what sort of football will they look to play?
We are fully a possession-based football team, so we will look to control the game. We will play out from the back. We play quite central. So you'll notice that you guys will probably try and block out our double pivot. So you'll have players that are sort of standing on sort of McGinn or Tielemans, and we look to try and roll players, get the ball into Morgan Rogers, who in open space will try and drive forward. One of our, well, I'd say probably our best player this season. We have our, depending on what sort of tactical setup he goes with, if he goes with the normal, then it'll be our left back that will be offering the width on the left-hand side. And then we play with sort of Ramsey on the left who comes inside. If it's Rashford, then we'll just flip it and it'll be our right back that offers the width on the right. Rashford will be high and wide on the left. And yeah, we've got different ways of playing as well. We can go long. We've got Watkins who can stretch the defence and open space for other players. Set pieces, we are currently the best team in the Premier League at set pieces. We've scored the most goals from set pieces. So that's something that we are really good at. We're really creative. We can go short. We can go to the near post. And we've just got different routines that we do that generally work. But the big thing is our defending is absolutely tragic at times, which is absolutely mental to say. But we concede a lot of goals. So that's something that I want us to try and sort out against you guys. But we concede goals from our first shot against on target pretty much every single game, which is shocking. So if you take your first shot, get it on target, it's probably going to go in because that's generally what happens. So yeah, that's just generally how we play.
In terms of an individual player who Cardiff should be aware of, who would be your man to watch?
I'd say Morgan Rogers. He's so good. He was playing with a bit of a knock yesterday, and he sort of got the knock against Chelsea, and we didn't think he was going to play, but he played the full 90. So is he going to rest him? I'm not sure. He seems to just keep playing him. So I'd probably say he's going to start, but you know, he's a wonderful player. He's got 12 goals in the Premier League this season. He's so powerful at running with the ball. You know, I remember the first home game of the season and he put Declan Rice and Partey on the floor that many times, just bumping them off the ball. So he's just been our bright spark, really. If he plays well, then Villa generally play well. So, and then you've got the likes of players that have been in form against Chelsea. Asensio, 2 goals, Rashford, 2 assists. You know, those players don't really need to be spoken about because everybody's seen sort of like their quality. And you know, Watkins is a good goal scorer at Villa Park as well.
Indeed, and give us Cardiff fans a little bit of hope, because it does feel in many ways like it could be a long evening for Cardiff, particularly, you know, if we do end up playing quite a few kids. Give us some hope. What's your injury situation at the moment, and is there any chance that Villa could be a bit cocky, if you like, or a bit look past Cardiff, shall we say?
I don't think we'll look past it. I don't think Emery's the sort of manager that will allow that. One of the things that might give you a bit of hope is that we played Stevenage in Emery's first FA Cup about 2 years ago and we lost. So that should give you a bit of confidence that if Stevenage can do it, then you know, we are beatable. And, you know, we've got injuries to Onana, Pau, Kamara, Ross Barkley. Does he rotate? Does he tweak it a little bit? We rotated against Palace in the Carabao Cup at home and lost. So, yeah, I think it's one of them where I think it depends what you do. It depends how serious you take it. It depends how physical you make that game, how difficult you make it for Villa. You know, we do move the ball around quite slow at times. So if you get structured and players behind the ball, make it difficult, keep it 0-0 till say 70-ish, then that would be a really good game plan for you, because I think, you know, you'd get more confidence as you grow into the game. So I think it's a bit about what we do. It's a bit about what you do, and then you'll find the winner, won't you?
Yeah, I think, look, we've all seen enough FA Cup shocks over the years that you've always got the hope, and it's the hope that gets you in the end, I guess. But I think in terms of Cardiff, I think whoever we select, I think we'll set up. We might even go 3 at the back, but we'll set up very compact, and we'll try and hit you on the break with pace in the wide areas. Whether it works, is another case, because I know one thing I'd noticed with Villa is, you do move the ball slowly at times, but then all of a sudden they will just start moving it really quick and utilize the pace that you have up front, and that's it's frightening at times. When you click, it looks real good. Also, Jeff asked in the chat if you know anything about or anything further about any tributes to Peter Whittingham during the game.
Yeah, I think there is a banner that one of our fan groups have created. So I think there is something going on. I've not heard of anything of an applause, but I do think there will be a tribute to him.
Yeah, I think I had read something about an applause. I'm sure there'll be tributes from both clubs in some form as well. With regards to Friday, mate, give us a prediction and the goal scorers if you want as well.
Yeah, I hate doing this bit because you sound really arrogant, don't you? But
yeah,
I think we need a bit of a reaction from what we saw against Crystal Palace. So I'm gonna hope we go for something that we don't normally get: a clean sheet, 2-0. That would be my score prediction.
Interesting. I'm going to go with a Cardiff City victory. Obviously, 1-0 in extra time. Ruben Colwell, top corner. It'll be the first shot of the game as well in like the 118th minute.
Do you know what? It'd be classic Villa.
Yeah, well, I think all clubs feel like that though, don't they? As well, I think it's. But yeah, it's one of them, and it's the FA Cup. You never know.
Yeah.
I do wonder whether, as we do, I think there's another press conference tomorrow. I think so. I think it'll be interesting. I'm a firm believer that the press conferences from managers mean absolutely nothing, because they never tell the full truth anyway. For one reason or another, they just kind of say what they're saying. So I just think we'll see how it goes, but maybe he plays a bit stronger side than he's making out. But we got exciting youngsters also, mate. So you never quite know. You never quite know. I'm not anticipating a victory. Let's say that much. But listen, Luke, thank you so much for coming on the show this evening, and obviously thank you for having me on your show on Monday as well. Appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, all the best. Thank you.
Yeah, and you, mate. We'll be back in just a second with former Wales and Cardiff City defender, Mr. Rhys Weston.
You're listening to Cardiff City World on Cymru Sport Radio, live from the Welsh capital. The most interactive football show in Wales, featuring guests, fan opinion, and all the latest news surrounding Cardiff City. Have your say and get in touch now.
Welcome back. Thank you very much to Luke for joining us this evening to preview the Villa game a little bit. And I'm delighted to welcome ex-Wales, former Cardiff City. He started his career with Arsenal, of course. It is none other than Mr. Rhys Weston. How are you, my friend?
Good, my man. How are you?
Very good, very good. It's been too long.
It's been a long while, mate. You're right. I can only apologise. It's good to see you.
No, it's all good. How are you, first of all?
Good. Very well. Very well, thank you. Can't complain.
So I wanted to talk to you a little bit this evening about your time at Cardiff, but also it's FA Cup week. So I wanted to ask you what your first memory is of the FA Cup, not necessarily as a player, but as a kid. Like, when do you first remember being aware of the FA Cup?
It's a great question. Probably the Coventry Tottenham final. You have to test me now, like 86, 87, something like that. It's around that time, I think. It's about the time I went to see my first game. My first ever game I went to see live was Wimbledon against Tottenham at the old Plough Lane. My dad took me to see that. So it's kind of around about that time that I became fully aware of it all. I think the most kind of lingering fondest memory I have of the FA Cup was when we We played Arsenal at Highbury in their last year. Narrow defeat, obviously, but yeah, that was an incredible day out for everyone. I think that's probably my favourite ever FA Cup encounter. Playing for Cardiff at Arsenal. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Just like a bit of a special one for you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was nice. It was nice. Yeah, it's nice to go back and to see a few old faces and the rest of it. But equally, it was just just the whole occasion. There's something quite magical about the FA Cup. I still hold it quite dear to my heart. Even in my current role at the moment, it's certainly a competition that's taken very seriously by everybody, top to bottom throughout the pyramid. So I think it hasn't lost its luster in that regard. It's just it gives people a bit of a respite from the day to day, doesn't it? If the league's not going great, or if you're in a bit of a poor run of form, FA Cup gives you an opportunity to buck that trend and to have a bit of a respite from it all.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I love the FA Cup, and I really enjoyed it. Cardiff in the last round played Stoke. We were 2-0 up, then we were 3-2 down, then it goes to extra time and penalties, and it just, with no VAR, that game, obviously Cardiff don't have VAR game to game anyway, but like just as just watching it, it was so enjoyable. It just felt like an old school FA Cup tie, two teams go in sort of head to head. And then this week, we had taken, I think, 6,000 fans, I think it is, up to Villa. The tickets sold out really quickly. And it feels like an inconvenience because both teams have got sort of so many games and things going on at the moment. And it almost takes away from the FA Cup a little bit. And that makes me kind of a bit sad, because we should all be looking forward to going to Villa and this big, huge game against a real top coach and a top side. But they've kind of squeezed it in, and it just feels, I don't know, like, obviously, you work within football still. How do clubs feel generally about like the amount of fixtures and squeezing it in? Because the FA Cup should be special, but it's also, everyone, I guess, has got their priorities, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. But I think we Brentford are quite fortunate, I guess, in some respects that, we exited the FA Cup quite early. Obviously we wanted to have a decent cup run, but consequently that's freed up our schedule. But when you look at Villa, who are competing in the Champions League, obviously still in the FA Cup, still pushing for a top four finish, and obviously Cardiff have got their priorities in terms of the league, and there's a lot more games in the Championship, as you well know. There's not a huge amount of consideration given for the paying punter, is how I feel about it. I think, we know that football's governed by TV rights and revenues. And I think the EFL rights deal has been great, to give people access to EFL football, to watch it live every weekend, but to the detriment of the fans, I think, to a degree. And as you rightly say, having to schlep all the way up to Birmingham for a cup tie in what's arguably the most important period of the season is a bit of a challenge, a bit of a juxtaposition to get your head around, isn't it? But equally, I hope, like I said, the fact that the Bluebirds are taking 6,000 fans up there just shows that the magic is still there, and I'm sure Villa will be taking it seriously as well. And hopefully, it gets the spectacle that the fans deserve, and I'm sure it will be a decent day out for everyone.
Yeah, and I think it's an exciting opportunity as well, because I think a few squad players will get a game for Cardiff. We've got a lot of injuries as well, so you probably might see a couple of youngsters, and you never quite know with young players. Particularly if they're in the forward areas, they might get a goal, and suddenly they've gone from academy player who's on the fringes to being considered week to week. It can change your career, those big moments. On Cardiff, we had a question sent in for you from Cardiff City manager Omar Risa, and to ask you who was quicker in the Arsenal academy, you or Omar.
Crikey, Omar was too fast for his own good. It took him a while for his legs to catch up with himself sometimes. No, he messaged me earlier actually. I'm so pleased for him. He's been on a real journey in terms of his coaching career. He's done his due diligence. He's done the hard yards, and he's a really, really good, really well-versed coach. He's got a lot of experiences. He was a top player as well, by the way, top player. And and I'm really pleased he's been given the opportunity to take the City job. And I think he's doing great. Like I said, it's tough circumstances to come into, especially as your first bona fide kind of managerial role. And we all know how challenging it can be at times managing Cardiff City. But I think he's brought an element of calm and an element of consistency to Cardiff's performances of late. And that's testament to him and the work he's been doing. Of course, he's got a good group of players. Don't get me wrong, but other managers have tried and failed, and he's doing a great job. And I hope it continues, and I hope he continues to grow and his reputation grows with him.
Yeah, I actually think that if Cardiff can stick with him and stay up this year and stick with him in the summer, I think he's shown enough that you can be quite excited about what he would build and this is the same with all managers. It's like, if you can be patient with them and give them the time to do it, then that's when you see the squads they build. So often you see managers, all around the Premier League and the Championship, lose their jobs, and they haven't even got a team that they've built yet. And there is no time. And I guess it's part and parcel with it. One of the things that's really impressed me with Omar is how adaptable he is tactically. For a young manager, I think that is really interesting to me, because I think when you're a young manager and you're building your reputation, and it's your first sort of big job, if you like, and it would be easy to just stick with the whatever your formation is, 4-2-3-1 or whatever it is, but to have the confidence and the bravery and the belief in your ability as a manager and a coach to say, no, we're going to go 3 at the back against this team because we need to. And then halfway through the game, actually, we need to switch it up again now. And I think that adaptability is something which will serve him well in the future. And I really like it. Like, I'm all about tactics anyway, but I do really enjoy seeing a young manager being brave enough and capable enough to switch it up, because I think
he's got great knowledge of the game. That's one of the key elements for his ability to make those tactical changes. He knows football inside out. He's been in it his entire life. As I said, he's done the hard yards. He's done his coaching homework. He understands tactics. He understands people. He understands young players. And fundamentally, he's a good guy. He understands people as well. And I think if you find that combination, you can get a tune out of anybody. And I think that's modern football now, Si, isn't it? When unless you're a Leeds United or a Burnley or a Sheffield United, they've got a settled way of playing that if you set your stall out, if you play to the best of your abilities, you're going to win more games than you lose. If you're in a position where you've got to be a bit more creative with how you play, having a manager that understands those tactical dynamics is invaluable, and that could well be the difference. Cardiff, in my opinion, will stay up. And again, if Omar is given the opportunity to extend his stay beyond this season, I think there'll be a lot of young players that will be keen to work with him. The relationships he has as well in terms of the loan market, I think there could be a real good opportunity to build something at Cardiff.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And I think, and let me ask you this question. Martin just asked in the chat. He says, did you always see Omar as someone who would go on to be a manager?
I have to be honest, not necessarily. I thought he'd stay in football. A lot of his age group have stayed in the game, either through agency or media or through coaching. But as I said, his passion and his understanding and his knowledge of football is second to none. So it's no surprise. The fact that he's worked with young players for such a long time is, I think, where he's learned his trade in terms of coaching. But yeah, I think it wasn't something. I mean, we played together when we were very young. Obviously, kept in touch over the years. It wasn't something. It wouldn't look at him in the youth team and think you're going to be a manager when you finish playing. But it's no surprise to me that he stayed in the game because of the passion he has for it and the understanding he has for it.
Excellent. Rhys, let's talk to you a little bit just before we let you go. Let's talk to you a little bit about your time down in South Wales. Sorry. What's some of your fondest memories playing for Cardiff, and maybe some of your not so fond?
The fun ones are easy. I I joined Cardiff at a time the Welsh Renaissance was taking place when I came down. I signed in November 2000 when Sam Hammam was his objective was to try and bring as many young Welsh players to the capital as possible and try and build something from there. And we had such a young, talented, exciting group at that time. I think there were 8 or 9 of us under the age of 22, which with it brought its challenges, as you can imagine. University city when you're in your early 20s. But I think we got the balance right. Some great personalities, some great characters, and I loved every minute of it. Coming from the relative bubble that was Arsenal, which I also thoroughly enjoyed for different reasons. But coming into the real world, as I refer to it as and playing league football, working with Alan Cork and Bobby Gould initially, and then navigating your way through Sam Hammam's antics. It was just a great time, and obviously then when Lenny came in, he put a lot of faith in me. I signed a new contract under Lenny, and we got promoted to the Championship via the playoffs against QPR, which again will live long in the memory for players and supporters alike. Obviously I got senior capped while I was with Cardiff as well, which was with amazing experience, amazing honour for me and my family. And I think it's the way I left was the most disappointing aspect of it. I was quite fortunate with injuries. I was always available. I wasn't always the most consistent necessarily, but I always felt that I did all right when called upon. But I just think the way I left was a bit sad in the sense that I never really got a chance to say goodbye to people. I didn't expect a guard of honour, don't get me wrong, but I think it would have been nice, having spent the best part of 6 years there, to be able to go on my terms, or at least a little bit less under the radar, so to speak. But again, I hold no grudges. So like I said, I think life moves on. I'm in a good place. I'm enjoying what I'm doing now. Family's happy and settled. And I think the experiences I gained at Cardiff have certainly given me the confidence and the experiences to take those into different aspects of my life as well. So I'll be forever grateful for what Cardiff afforded me, and obviously keep it very close to my heart. My parents live in Cardiff still, so yeah, it's very fond memories, mate.
Absolutely. Funny you should mention that Millennium Stadium game. I recently did a retro watch along with Andy Campbell for that, which is still up for members.
He's still dining out on that, is he?
Yeah, of course he is. He always will be, won't he? But it was funny that we were watching, and he had told me the story before, but it was funny watching it with him and then him telling the story again. So effectively in that game, you had gone down with cramp not long before the goal had gone in, or just previous to that, and obviously the goal goes in, and all you see is, as he's kind of celebrating, you just appear from nowhere, sprinting down the sideline. Not a sign of cramp in there.
Yeah, I know.
Adrenaline, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was actually around. Normally, I was good for cramp around 75 minutes. So I'd probably come off around that time. Crofty would come on in my place, and then cramp is one of those things. Like I think as you get older, you get used to it, and it's not as debilitating. But my cars would lock up, and there was no coming back from it. But I'd obviously been off long enough for him to settle down a wee bit, and then when that goal went in, there was no stopping me. I think it's the fastest I've run all season, to be honest with you. But what a day that was. Again, I can picture it so vividly now. I actually come across the team lineup picture the other day, about 6-7 months ago. It kind of popped up. Someone sent it to me on social media. Just a lineup, and you see the backdrop of the stadium and the rest of it. And like I say, Cam's rightly will take the glory for that, because he was. He had his challenges as well at that time, getting into the team and staying in the teim. So for him to score that goal and to kind of indelibly leave his mark was great for him. And also it kind of I don't think it's kind of set the tone, but it kind of set Cardiff on their way to where they wanted to get to, and where they ended up getting to very, very, very short period of time, being the Premier League. But hopefully it's not beyond the realms of possibility they can do that again. But I certainly felt that was the start of something when we won that playoff final.
Yeah, for sure. And I often describe it as the goal which saved the club, because I think it was fairly public knowledge that if we hadn't got promoted, a lot of that squad would have probably gone for different reasons, different people. But it felt like that was kind of the end of it. If we didn't go up, in terms of they'd have to rebuild and bring some new players in. You didn't go home for about 3 or 4 days, though, did you? As a group?
No,
Just the rumours.
there's a fair amount of celebrating going on. That has to be said. But I remember the main emotion was relief, to be honest with you. You know, because having missed out the year before in the playoffs, you know, to get back there again, and the expectation we'd had all season, especially with the people we brought in. You know, it was challenging at times, especially when we looked like we weren't going to make the playoffs. So to actually get over the line was. Yeah, it was jubilation, but also relief as well. So yeah, we enjoyed ourselves for a few days afterwards. That's for sure.
That's the way. Rhys, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, as always, mate. And I'm sure we'll have a proper chat and a proper catch up soon. But
yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you, mate. Thank you.
No worries, mate. All the best. Take care.
Cheers. And we'll be back in just a second for the Cardiff City fan opinion with Jamie.
The home of Welsh sport. This is Cymru Sport.
Welcome. This is Sai, and this is Cardiff City World. They're coming into the last 15 minutes of the hour before we switch to the Welsh Football Hour live on Cymru Sport and, of course, Cardiff City World. A big thank you to everyone who's getting involved in the chat and our guests so far. But it's time to get the fan opinion. Hot on the heels of victory in a 6-pointer yesterday night. Delighted to be joined by Jamie Anderson. How are you, mates?
Relieved, happy. Yeah, like you just said, 6-pointer, mate. Brilliant to finally get a win against someone that is in and around us.
Yeah, it was proper stressful, wasn't it? It was nervous. My boy kept telling me to stop. I kept tapping my feet just up and down constantly, and he just kept nudging me because I think I was bumping into him. But it was just one of those games where it was just stressful and nervous. But I know you've been sat in the background there where I was just talking to Rhys about, you know, the tactical adaptability of the manager. And I think some people don't appreciate it in some ways, because I thought he was quite clever last night. And, you know, don't get me wrong, by the way, not great to watch. But what he did was clever, was that he set up like an away team, sat in, and we tried to hit him on the break. And when we did move the ball a little bit quicker in the transition, we cut through them in the first half. But it's not great to watch. But Hull struggled, don't they? They struggled away from at home, when they've got teams sitting in, and that's what we did. What was your opinion of that?
I think it's one of those ones, isn't it, where we've seen games this season. The one that I remember was Watford home, where we were dominant all game. Watford didn't have anything, and then they sucker punched us at the end. I think Omar said that we didn't play particularly well. It wasn't attritional on the eye, and I think every fan in the ground can say that. But at the end of the day, I don't think we're in a position to have both things, where you play brilliantly, flourish in football and batter sides. Everything is a battle. Everything is, you've got to do the fundamentals correctly and to a good enough standard. And I think last night, especially our back 4/5, they were fundamentally sound. And I think that's what won us the game. Even though Hull didn't really create chances, I think that's more the fact that defensively, especially, I think they stuck to their jobs. They didn't allow players like Matt Crooks, who's a massive player, to have time on the ball or to sort of push themselves around. But no, I think, like you said, when you win, credit goes to the players, the managers. When you lose, naturally, people dissect things. But I said last night, it doesn't matter how you win games at this time of the season. Win the games and worry about performances after.
Yeah, and I think overall, taking out the odd game, Leeds and Oxford, and I think overall the performances have been better, and you can see glimpses of what the manager and the coaches are trying to do. We just haven't quite been able to put it together for a lot of full performances. However, I said in my preview, we just have to win by hook or crook. It doesn't matter how, doesn't matter what the performance is like. We just have to find a way to win, because I do think if we had lost last night, that would have been catastrophic, because that was our game in hand on Plymouth. Obviously, Hull right by us as well. And it's just given us a little gap. 6 points over Plymouth, 3 over Hull. Do you think that could be the beginning of us pulling away, or do you think it's going to be up and down for the rest of the season?
I mean, we look at March and the fixtures. There's some daunting fixtures in there. I just think it's the Championship, Simon. I think you're going to have days where you'll surprise somebody. Like next Tuesday, it wouldn't surprise me if we get something out of Burnley. Whereas we probably more have a different task against someone that we're, let's say, expected to beat in Luton. I don't know. I mean, it's a hard one because you'd want consistency, but our season hasn't been consistent. And like you said, there have been some really poor results in there by everyone's, admission. But also, there's been some really good sparks shown. Like you said, now we're getting the likes of Isaac Davis back now at the right end of the season. We're getting some key players back, which we need. But yeah, I just think it's a Championship, like you said about Plymouth. I think we're plus 14 ahead of them on goal difference. That could be huge. Again, I think is it 2 points or 3 points between, say, us, your Portsmouth and your Oxford, who, let's not forget, everyone was raving about Oxford after they beat us Boxing Day. They went on a run. Was it Gary Rowett was manager of the month in January and everyone thought they were going to climb the table? Anything can happen, Simon. Like I said, March, the fixtures are crammed, mate. There's so many fixtures. And again, anyone can have injuries. Anyone can have a bad day, but hopefully we've gone through our little bit of a patch.
Yeah, hopefully we can get some players back. And that was another thing which kind of caught my eye on social media. I saw a lot of criticism before the game about the amount of changes to the lineup. But I think you could tell it was by necessity. There was so many injuries, suspensions. And I mean, even I think I said in my review earlier, Callum Chambers, Alex Robertson and Callum Robinson, none of them looked like they were 100%. No. I think Alex Robertson looked like he couldn't breathe after about 10 minutes. And that's not a criticism of him. I think it's more, praising them that they were willing to get back as quick as possible. And Callum Chambers was willing to just go in, straight in, play an hour. I saw, because I was sat like just slightly to the left of like Omar Research bench. And I saw him asking Callum Chambers about 10 minutes before he came off, like, are you all right? Can you give me 5 more minutes? And I think it was very much like that for a lot of them, where they were just patched up, Bagan the same, just patched up and just do a job. And like you look at the defence, and I think that's what really catches the eye. You had Rena Motter at right back, who's a midfielder. You've got Will Fish, who's a young defender finding his feet at first team level. Perry NG, who's a fullback and hasn't been in the best of form. I think he would admit that. And then Callum O'Dowda at left back, who's a winger. That's not a back four that you would necessarily be wanting to put together. But I thought, particularly Fish and NG and O'Dowda, I thought they were outstanding. Really, really just body on the line, but also a bit of quality as well.
Yeah, and you're right there, because again, these are players, especially Will Fish, who Omar Reza said himself haven't had the minutes and yet to establish themselves. Performances like last night, he'll be putting his hands up and saying, look, how well I played. And I know it's not an individual praise and sort of thing, because at the end of the day, 11 players and your subs have to play well to get results, don't they? You mentioned Callum O'Dowda there. He was up and down. But, what I like to see was, especially in the last 20 minutes before Kean Ashford came off, Kean Ashford was doubling up with, the overlap as well. So he was helping out, Callum O'Dowda. So I think, again, there's a bunch of players there that, in the past, rightly or wrongly, whatever you want to say, have been questioned with their sort of, maybe their application during games, maybe their work rate, which, when you're losing games and you're near the bottom, any negatives are they're heightened. But I think they're all starting to pull together. And like you said, there's sports science plays a massive thing now in sport. We don't see that. I mean, yesterday I was calling when Hull making subs. Oh man, make a sub, to sort of counteract it. But like you said, at times you've got to eat your humble pie as a fan, because you're emotionally involved in the game. And there's a reason why. He mentioned it after the game. We don't always see what's happened. The likes of Joe Bagan, who, he was literally on his last legs. He could only give the amount of minutes that he gave yesterday. There's players in there that, unfortunately, they're pushing themselves to limits. And I know people say, I'm the first one to say, well, that's what you expect as fans. But as you spoke to, with the Villa chap, that the schedule is a grueling schedule because the TV wants games thick and fast. There's no time for recovery. So now we're lucky that we've got some bright sparks with the likes of, Cian Ashford, youthful players coming through who may be able to accommodate and help the say, aging players, the likes of Chambers, that they can facilitate each other quite well and complement each other.
Yes, and I think as much as it wasn't the greatest game to watch, there were some real positive aspects to it.
Yeah.
Like I thought, it's not so much positive, but look, Rinamoto to me is one who looks like he's just out on his feet because he's played so much football after pretty much not playing any football for a season, and then he's suddenly playing every minute of every game, and I just think he looks maybe a bit mentally tired, which I fully understand, but he still did his defensive work very, very well. It was just things like, first touch and some of his passing. He wasn't the only one. And it's just, you have to just get through. On the more sort of positive side, I thought like Cian Ashford he's so good and direct going forward, but he's also so good going back to help the fullback. But one thing which has supremely impressed me about Cian this year is if you go back to the Millwall game, he came on, I think, quite early on in the second half. And he was very good on the ball. He had his fullback on toast. But every time he got to the final ball, he kind of fluffed his lines a little bit in that game. It happened several times. You could see he was getting frustrated, but he kept asking for the ball. And on the evening, I said, that's such a great attitude, the goldfish attitude of like, I'm just going to keep going and going. But since that game, his final ball has been top notch. So he's gone away, thought about it, analysed it, all the things they do, and he's improved it. And I think for such a young player to do that is astounding, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and again, I spoke to someone down the ground yesterday, and we were talking about like the club as in general in regards to the youngsters coming through, and obviously now with the upcoming game on Friday, you never know, you might see an under-18s player in there that's maybe somebody hasn't sort of known of. But what I do think is happening now as well is we're getting a good bunch of players that are coming through at the academy levels that, like you said, they've got the goldfish mentality. It's not, we're a professional player and we've made it. You haven't made it until you've made it. Even now, the likes of Cian Ashford, Isaac Davis, who, at the minute is out of contract in the summer, they're all still trying to develop their game, and that will only benefit the club. And again, like you said, Cian Ashford, that game at Millwall, he had the cross, like you say, which went over, and you could see he had that initial frustration, but he got straight back into it. And I think it's not just individuals, like you said. Then you look at your leaders, you look at your experienced pros. Then, if Ramsey's not there, what's Callum Chambers doing? What's Callum O'Dowda doing? Are they, sort of giving them a rollicking, or are they actually going round the players and saying it's okay? And I think we're now starting to see, okay, it's one game. I know people might say, listen, we only beat Hull and stuff like that, but you could argue that's our biggest win of late because of how important it is. And now we can enjoy Friday, not having the stresses of thinking who's going to play Saturday. Are we going to be, 1 point ahead or, what have you? But again, small gains give you that bigger picture eventually. And I just hope, like you said, these bright sparks now, eventually they'll light everything up. And again, it's all about development, Simon. It could be a 6-month development, it could be a year development, it could take 2 years. But eventually these players, if they don't stay with us, they'll make the club money. And again, that's what it's about. It's about the club. It's about the fans. We're all part of the club. And we just all want to see the best for the club. And at the minute, league position doesn't lie. So every game is massive. We'll enjoy Friday night, whatever will be. And then we'll rush it down ready for next Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And I'm really excited by what's coming through and what we've got in the first team at the moment. I'm uniquely positive for some reason, considering the league position, but I can also see Omar Risa. You can see his fingerprints on how they deal with the young players. I saw Darren Pearce put his arm around Chris Willock at halftime. And I thought Chris Willock did a really good job defensively yesterday. He just couldn't quite implement his game going forward. Clearly got talent, but the players are definitely with the manager, mate. They are 100% fighting for him. And I think that's half the battle as a manager these days, is getting the players on side.
You're spot on. And again, we may have the sort of, the perception that the reason why we were so poor at the start of the season was because of the falling outs and the rumoured, dressing room incidents, etc., etc. And that's fine. But hopefully that's water under the bridge now and it's gone. You've got to look at, let's single out Perry NG, for example, someone who hasn't been getting in the side because, say, Andy Rinomota has been brilliant. He hasn't, as of late anyway, sort of thrown his toys out the pram or anything like that. He's actually come in and he's starting centre half. And to be fair to Perry NG, I thought yesterday was brilliant. And I thought, against Plymouth, I thought he played quite well. It's a natural position for him. But we've got, like you said earlier on, we've got players playing in natural positions. And years gone by, maybe players would say, I'm not playing there. You don't see players at the minute saying they're not playing somewhere. They're there for the team. And, as part of that team, that is the management team. That's the staff behind the scenes. That's the team that's on the pitch. But also, again, these players, we're all as one. Like we say, the fans want the players to put everything into that pitch, on that pitch. And we'll give everything we can. And hopefully, like I said, in the next couple of weeks, by the end of March, let's pray and let's hope relegation will be something that's long gone and we'll be enjoying it. And, credit to the Cardiff fans, their support will, it'll be rewarded.
100%, mate. Very, very quickly, mate. I know you're going to Villa on Friday. It's going to be an amazing trip. Just give me a couple of players you'd like to see feature and a score prediction.
I just think, I think the youngsters, I want to see the youngsters play. Give them the experience. Not many people are probably given as much, much hope going up there against the likes of Rashford, etc. But we did that at Anfield, didn't we? We went to Anfield with the youngsters and played well. If it's anything, let's say 3-1, and we've put a good shift in and battled. Happy days. This is a night out for all the fans that we can enjoy it, and the players give their all. It's an experience size. So, unfortunately, I'm going to be the negative Sally there and say, we're probably going to lose. But hey ho, give your all, enjoy it, soak up, and 6,000 Bluebirds. Let's enjoy ourselves and make plenty of noise.
Absolutely. Jamie, thank you so much, mate. I just on a personal note, I really hope Louis Giles gets a game. I would like to see Dylan Lawler and Rube. I would really like to see? I'd like to see Ruben get given the captaincy.
Yeah.
But I think El Ghazi will probably start and people like that. But it's exciting, mate, and it'll be good. I'm just gutted I can't go because I've got something going on in the afternoon, and it just was impossible. So I'm devastated. Literally everybody's going. So I'm like, I'll just do a watch along on my own then. But no, I'm excited, mate. Jamie, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to Rhys Weston. Thank you to Luke from the Up the Villa podcast. We'll be back in just a second for the Welsh Football Hour, where the first half is focused on grassroots refereeing. This should be a good one. Join me.
If you're hearing this, so are your potential customers. Be heard and reach sports fans across the country. We have advertising opportunities available throughout our programmes, website and commentaries. Working with you, we will create a bespoke package and make sure your message reaches the people you want to hear it. Contact us today to find out how Cymru Sport could help your business. Email contact@cymrusport.cymru.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Welsh Football Hour, and I'm very much looking forward to this one as we take a deep dive into what it's like to be a grassroots referee. They get a lot of stick from people like me who coach football teams, but hopefully it's all in the right way. But we shall find out, and I'm delighted to be joined by grassroots referee Jonathan. I apologise if I pronounced your surname wrong, mate, but Jonathan Yeomans, is it?
Yeomans. Jonathan Yeomans.
There we go. Pleased to meet you, Jonathan. Thank you for joining me, mate. And thank you for jumping in last minute.
No problem.
I really appreciate it. So first and foremost, tell us how you got into grassroots refereeing.
A bit of a story. I started off refereeing five-a-side football when I was about 18. I didn't really want to go outside because it was all raining. Decided to give it a go because I wasn't the greatest footballer. Not a bad five-side goalkeeper, but I thought I'd give it a go. And nearly 30 years later, over 30 years later, still reffing. senior league and junior league, and still loving it. Generally do love it, especially the youngsters. Love ref and junior football. That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
Yes, it's a fascinating one, see, because so obviously, I have the privilege of speaking to a lot of footballers, journalists, referees. One of my favorite interviews actually is with Jeff Winter, former Premier League referee. He's a lovely chap. But I do, even myself, I coach an under-16s team, and I look at it and I know one of the other coaches or the two other coaches, they hate it when they've got a referee. So we generally will try and get a referee. But, coaches get frustrated, particularly once you get to under-13s and upwards where it's competitive. Yeah. Coaches do get frustrated if, it doesn't go their way or they feel the referee's got it wrong. I think 99% of the referees, you can kind of go with it and you can go, they're trying their best. It's a hard job. Let's just try and go easy on them. There has been a couple of incidents this year that I've heard about in Cardiff with a certain referee, which I'm not going to go into too big because I don't know what's happening with it, but that was disappointing. But generally speaking, what I've been really impressed with this year is we've had a couple of really young referees. We had a lad who was about 14 or 15. He was absolutely outstanding. The way he dealt with the kids, the way he dealt with the coaches, I was really super impressed. And we had another one. It was about 19, I think. They were actually the best referees I've seen over the last few years.
But good to hear.
Tell me, how difficult is it to deal with the coaches and particularly in those sort of younger age groups, like the 15, 16s, where they got a bit more to say for themselves?
I think it comes with experience, and also it's about knowing the coaches. And I think sometimes there's coaches you can talk to, and it's having a relationship, I believe. And the one thing I like to do is, and I've done a lot, is talking to people. I think if you talk to people the way you like to be talked to yourself, that gets you the respect. But what I always say too is, if the parents are all kicking off, I concentrate on the kids, because they're the stars. They're the stars. So what I will say sometimes is, when I'm reffing myself, I'll be refereeing the youngsters. Say, lads, I'm here for you, not for them over there. And you're the stars, not them. Don't listen to them. You listen to me. And I believe we're speaking to the players, but also encouraging the players, especially at a young age. I think that's really key. And also sometimes just try to talk, as long as the coach is willing to talk to you in a reasonable manner, you can talk to him and say, look, this is my opinion. That's your opinion. And that usually gets you the respect that you deserve. That all doesn't always work, because sometimes, unfortunately, people just lose the plot.
Yeah, they do. It's the emotion and the adrenaline, and I think, unfortunately, people overstep the mark sometimes, in whether it's comments or just generally being over the top. And it's we had a game a few years ago where a few wild challenges went in, and we weren't happy, and the ref was doing his best. And the coaches and the parents from the other team, they were stoking it up. They were encouraging it, and they were doing. And in the end, the players from the other team, who were just kids, 11, 12, they actually were kind of telling their parents and coaches to just shut up and let them play football. And in the end, we abandoned it because we just felt like it was getting so aggressive, and they were only young kids, and it was more the types of tackles that were going in. Like the ball went through to the keeper, and one of their players just came flying through the air and, 2-footed him. It was just needless, but it all came from their coach and the parents. They just stoked it up and up. And it's
very true. It's very true. And sometimes it can be very, even at a young age, if you've got somebody who has got a bit of a reputation, intimidating you on the sideline, and there are some shady characters around, and you can get very intimidated. And even as a referee at my age, it can't, you're worried about what happens if they try to pick up my family, if they come after me after the game. And that's the parents. There are stories of people chasing the referees and stuff like that, and And this is the problem. But you are right. We've seen a deluge of young referees come into the game this season, which is brilliant to see. But what I'm really glad is they've introduced some referee mentors, which means they know they've got somebody on the sideline. So, you know, if you're reffing a game, you've got somebody watching you just on your side. So you're not, and I think that's a massive, so if there's any, and towards that, the referee mentor can step in and go, right, that's enough. But I think that's a massive step forward in helping, especially especially the younger referees.
It's interesting. What I've noticed as well with the younger referees is some managers, some coaches or parents who maybe historically have been quite loud and aggressive and obnoxious. When the young referee comes, because they're so young, they're quite quiet because they don't want to be seen to be screaming and effing and blinding at a kid. So it's like a small difference I've noticed this year. But you'd like to think that these people would be able to control themselves anyway. But I also... Go on.
Unfortunately, I've seen the opposite, where I see sometimes a young referee will get screamed at, and he's only a kid, and the language and the abuse is young. I've seen young referees come off a game crying off games, and it's been horrific. And it's been games where thankfully, where I've been on the other pitch, and what I will do as an old referee is, as soon as they finish the game, I'll walk with a young referee. I'll walk them to the changing room to make sure that they're not alone. Because I'm a bigger referee, and I know I'm quite well known. I'm not having that young referee walk by himself. I will walk him back to the changing room, making sure that he's safe and making sure he's okay and reassuring him. And I said, look, no matter how bad you've done, at least you've given it a go. You've had enough guts to pull, and you encourage that referee. Say, look, don't let him win. You go again. We all have bad games. Players have bad games. A ref can have a bad game as well. They will. You will. Everybody does it, and that's we've seen on the Premier League. We've seen some of the decisions even after VAR, and they're horrendous decisions. You get one shot at it when you're reffing, one shot, and these are young youngsters learning the game, and this is why I believe just let them make the decisions. Let them make the have a chat with them later, but be as you said, just be nice to them. Be nice.
Yeah, I think as well, you give them a bit of feedback, like after the game, and tell them, look, I think you got this right, wrong, whatever, or I saw it this way. Because ultimately, one thing that we need from top to bottom in grassroots football, not just in Wales, but in the UK, is more referees. What we don't want is games having to be refereed by coaches or managers or whatever, because
impossible.
It's so difficult to do.
Yeah,
you're in a no-win situation, and it just causes issues. But Jonathan, tell me some of the more interesting stories that you can tell me over the years of refereeing without swearing.
Well, I don't swear. Well, I don't swear. As I swear, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian myself, Christian referee.
Okay.
I'm not well known for not swearing, but that's my choice. But if people don't want to swear, that's up to them. That's different when I'm reffing football. But I've got 3 stories, 3 of my funniest stories. The first one I'd like to start off was I was refereeing a game, and all that's happening, the supporters were coming on the pitch all the time. They were stepping on the pitch by about 2-3 yards all the time. I was like, get off the pitch, get off the pitch. And what it was, they were losing. The team was losing. I won't mention them. They live in the Penlan area. If that's a very quick hint. And it was a quick throw into, and they would do a throw in. And I flew up and I went to the mat. I went to one of the players. Who I know very well, really have respect. I went, they're on the pitch again, you players. They stopped taking a quick throw in. It could have cost you a goal. The player turned, any of you come on a pitch, I'll effing knock you all out. They never came on again. And there's the second one is again. I'm also well known that I don't care. I don't get sworn at when I'm refereeing. At the end of the day, I understand red mist. People get sworn at. At the end of the day, whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, you do not swear at me. I send a player off. I don't care. It doesn't matter what my decision is. If you swear at me, you're gone. And I'm well known for that. So a player swore at me. I was just about to swear him off. his own captain literally lifted him up, run up to him, lifted the player off the floor. You swear at the referee again, I'll knock your head off. So I was like, don't do it again. And the last one is one of my funniest stories, and it's one of my favorite. It is my favorite story of time. As referee in a game of football, it was like under 14s, and this young lad was swearing every 5 seconds. I was like, you can't keep swearing all the time. We are in a public field. You can't keep swearing. And he's swearing and swearing and swearing. And I'm going, right, you've got to stop now. I went to the coaches. He's got to stop swearing. You kept swearing, right? And I gave him a yellow card, right? You've got to stop swearing. And I went to the coaches, went, at a younger age, have you got a sub? Can you sub him? Because he's going to get himself sent off, yeah? Which he was. He was heading for it. He's swearing non-stop. Swearing. In the end, I went, right, I'm going to have to send you off. As I sent off, one of the kids, quick as you like, ref, he's got Tourette's. Everybody's creased on the floor. Oh, everyone's just absolutely creased to the sideline. They my feet there, but everyone was just on the sideline. Everyone was just creased. It's just so quick. He's got the ref. But there is one story which I'm very, very like. It was it's one of my favorite stories. It's like one of the two teams were playing. One of the lads made a mistake, and like his mate fell over, cost him a goal. He's going. The coach was giving him grief. Oh, you man up, because he's crying. His mate went up to him. Come on, mate, get up. And I went up to him. I said, let me tell you what, young man. What I always do, I like to take a minute to say, I called his parent in, called his coach in. He is an absolute credit to you and the team. It's something I do when there's an outstanding bit of sportsmanship, and that's one of my things that I like to do, because I think, these kids, you don't know what they're going through. They could be an absolute nightmare at home for that 10 minutes or 45 minutes. They're away. So give them that bit of praise, a bit of encouragement. You can see it means the world to them. It means the world to their parent. As a parent myself, it means the world to the parent, and it means the world to the coach. And I think just taking the time to encourage good behaviour and good respect, I think is absolutely paramount as a referee.
And Jonathan, what do you think is the key now to over the next sort of 5 or 10 years of not just increasing the numbers of referees within the grassroots game, but also getting parents and teams under control to the way that you can have the passion, you can call for an offside or a foul or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's how you do it, and it's doing it the right way. What is the best way to do that and achieve that, do you think?
I still think it comes from the top. It comes from the top. And what I'm liking to see is, as you've seen it this season, the referees are being less tolerant with dissent. Well, as before, you remember, you see all the players surrounding the referees and the way they behave. It comes from the top. And for me, unless we see the players at the top behaving and the way they speak, they go. But you also look at it. Number of times you come after the game, what I also find is very poor is the losing team will always complain about the referee. The winning team will never complain when the decisions go. And I think the way we look at the referees and the way they are absolutely microscopically looked at, and it's like, what I also think as well, the problem we get is they say about ex-players, unless ex-players are willing to have a go, but they always seem to have an excuse. They always seem to have an excuse. And unfortunately, what we are seeing is, thankfully, we've had a deluge of young referees, and I don't know the reason. There's been a big push to get young referees into it, to try and get them into reffing, because they are the future. Absolutely.
And I think, like I mentioned earlier, not having enough referees is a problem. Yeah, and I think the more young, ultimately, young people, if they don't want to play the game, but they've got an interest in it, or they like football, but they don't feel that they can get enjoyment, or then maybe they're not good enough in their own head, if you like. Refereeing can be a good way to stay involved, and you never know with the opportunities are endless. What's been your favorite game to ever referee then, Jonathan?
There's one particular game. One particular game I refereed. It was a final It was final down there. It was 6-5, and it was just end-to-end football, and it was just came up, and it was brilliant because and one of the best things it was the way the kids behaved. You could just talk to the kid. They could be listened. Yeah, no problem, referee. It was like in the end, I think it was the game when I think Swans played Man United away, and in I think a few of the like Wayne Routledge and a few they even came over to start watching. We were playing in the final. Came over to watch the game because it was just brilliant game of football. And I came off the pitch and the way, but for me, it was the way the kids behaved. They behaved so well, and the tackles were flying in. There was no quarter given. Yes, there's one or two bookings, but what I was like, yes, you'd have like what for ref? But the way those kids behaved, I said, I tell you what, I made sure I shook every one of those youngsters' hands because the way they behaved, I said, you are an example to how. And in fairness, like everyone said, well done, ref. And I said, I was made to look good by those youngsters, because they were so well behaved, and the way they played the game was, it was just didn't want it to end.
What's been the most difficult game you've refereed?
It was one game. I don't want to name the team. And it was just down to one individual, and he was a coach, and what an absolute nightmare he was. He was just constantly arguing with every decision. In the end, I sent him off, and he was refusing to leave, and I was going to abandon the game. But then one of the youngsters of the team came up and just said to me, "Oh, please don't abandon the game, ref. Please don't abandon the game, ref." And he's nearly crying, and I didn't abandon it for him. So, but there's another game as well where I refereed it, where basically every 5 minutes a fight was breaking out, and it was just an unrefable game. And in the end, the two teams were fighting. I just blew up, and I was walking off the pitch, and I just let them carry on fighting. So the two teams were fighting. They turned around looking for me. I was up in the changing rooms. I was like, and it's what happened. I said, "Boys, I can't be bothered. You go kill each other. Game's abandoned."
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Like team managers, coaches, players, they get caught up in it. Ultimately, I think it's important that we keep people interested, keep kids playing football, and we keep these young referees coming through. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining me this evening.
No problem.
I really enjoyed listening to your tales of a grassroots referee. I'm sure
I do enjoy it. I won awards for it as well, so I was nominated like for the referee for the year, and it's been basically caused due to my communication skills with the youngsters, and that's what I believe is key. And it also takes old people like me to encourage young referees. We got to encourage her. I believe it's the old referees got to encourage young referees as well. We've got to encourage them.
Oh, 100%. Now, I'm sure we'll get you on at a later date as well to go into detail. But I appreciate you, Jonathan. Thank you very much, mate.
No problem. Anytime. Thank you. Bye.
So that was Jonathan, grassroots referee, telling us some stories of the difficulties faced by grassroots referees. And that's something that we're going to feature a lot going on, not on a weekly basis, but we're certainly going to touch on that subject. We're going to talk to referees and talk about some of the issues that they face as they're refereeing these games on a Saturday, whether it's men's football, junior football, because it's an issue. We need more referees. And the best way to do that is shine a light on it. I'll be back in just a second with another guest as we talk all about the JD Cymru League.
The home of Welsh sport. This is Cymru Sport.
Yeah, and I think this comment, by the way, just sums it up perfectly. Where Jonathan says, the bottom line is, without referees, there is no game. We should be grateful that they will undertake the job. And I think that's absolutely spot on. And we definitely need to keep looking to get more young referees involved. Geraint from Cymru Sport is going to be joining me in just a second, where he's going to update me on the JD Cymru League. But in the meantime, just while I'm waiting for him to connect and stuff like that, we are going to discuss a little bit about the Welsh national team. Ethan Ampadu has just having a knee scan, which is a big issue because he's missed, a fair bit of he's missed a fair bit of the season for Wales, and then obviously he came back, was doing very well, and then he's picked up this injury again. Hopefully it's not too serious, but it is worrying when he's got a knee injury, on the back of another knee injury. It is problematic, isn't it? He's such an important player for Wales, and yeah, I don't know what we'll do with that. I mean, in fairness to Craig Bellamy, he did a phenomenal job in covering for, Ethan Ampadu being out of the squad. I think he did a tremendous job, but, it's no denying that Ethan Ampadu is a very important player for Wales. Can play in a back three, can play in a back four, can play in a midfield. And personally, I think him and Jordan James as a midfield tool, as that sort of double pivot, allows the wide players and the attacking players to do their thing. We do have cover, but I just think that combination of Ampadu and Jordan James is top class for me. Like, I think it's really good. Ethan, I cannot speak highly enough of Ethan Ampadu. I think he's got the right mentality. He's got the technical ability, and he's got the right attitude in terms of wanting to play for his country and his club, and wants to play football, and he does it very well. In terms of where Wales go from that, Ollie Cooper's back playing for Swansea. You've got a few others who've done really well. I have to have a look at Jordan James, how many games he's made up now on his loan spell, because I know initially he wasn't playing a lot of football. So Wales will be looking to get ready now for this qualifying period. It's going to be some big games for Craig Bellamy. Craig Bellamy's made a real big impact on Welsh football already, and I think it's important that he continues that. And there's going to be a lot of eyes on him, but it looks like Ethan Ampadu, for instance, should I say, may have to face another surgery. On the positive side, you've got Aaron Ramsey coming back to form. You've got Ben Kabanga in good form for Swansea in a difficult season with both clubs. Ramsey's come back and looks excellent. And then you have rumours of former Swansea City midfielder Matt Grimes. The Welsh FA is looking to get him in. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Not because of his qualification or anything like that. At the end of the day, if he qualifies. I'm not really bothered too much about that. Is a 29-year-old, is he the right player for Craig Bellamy's team? And maybe they want an experienced head in there who's not Joe Allen. Joe Allen doesn't play a great deal of football these days. So maybe they do want that experienced head when Aaron Ramsey's not there. Difficult, isn't it? But there's options, and there's a lot of young Welsh players who are raring to go. Looks like Geraint is up and running, so we're going to bring Geraint in now, and we're going to talk a little bit of JD Cymru, see how we go. Geraint, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Sorry, the computer decided it didn't want me to talk tonight, but I think I've won the battle, or at least.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I can certainly hear you. I cannot see you, but that's not too much of an issue. I can hear you, which is the main thing. But yeah, you're going to give me a bit of a rundown on the current situation in the JD Cymru, mate, and give us a little bit of an update.
Well, it's actually a bit of a recess this week for the JD Cymru League, because on Friday it is the Nathaniel MG Cup final, which is the League Cup, which is contested by tiers 1 and 2. And if you remember, was supposed to be the magic route by which the EFL clubs were going to gain European access in that competition. and the final is actually on Friday. The New Saints, surprisingly, are in the final. Considering they're top of the league, it's not a surprise at all, is it? But there
No.
we go. But they are playing the team at the bottom of the Cymru Premier, Aberystwyth Town.
Oh, wow.
The game will be played at Newtown, which is a great stadium. It's worth going, certainly, if not for the event, for the stadium. TNS versus Aberystwyth, on paper, it should be a one-sided affair. But, well, I'm not going personally, but I would say that a few years ago I commentated on a game between Aberystwyth and TNS with exactly the same positions in the league standings, and Aberystwyth came out on top. You never know with the cup what's going to happen on the day, but I'm sure Craig Harrison isn't losing any sleep. He'll just prepare as normal, and we'll take it from there. In terms of the way that they got there, Aberystwyth actually beat Cardiff City on the way. The under-21s currently in the competition. They reached the semi. They lost on penalties. I was at the game, and in all honesty, I thought that Aberystwyth were a little bit slipshod in letting Cardiff back in to get penalties, and Cardiff were intent on playing possession football more than actually overcoming the way that Welsh football is played, and coming up with a plan B. So as it turned out, Aberystwyth won on penalties. TNS got through. It was a difficult game, but away at Barry Town United, but they beat them 2-1. And that is where we are. Now, if you want me to talk about the league very briefly, I will do so.
Just before you go to
on.
the league, Garen, just a couple of things on the
Sure.
final cup. I was lucky enough that I interviewed Craig Harrison a long time ago when I used to do a podcast with Andy Campbell, and I found him to be a really knowledgeable chap. His football IQ is really high, and I was quite impressed with. I've been quite impressed with the job he's done down there, and I think, look, there's no doubt he has advantages in terms of the facilities and things like that, but I think the job that he's done overall is to be commended.
Definitely. And I've got loads of time for Craig Harrison, because you could be top of the pile and be condescending to the opposition, but he's never once bad-mouthed teams in the league. He's always very calm, collected, easy to interview. He puts his points forward, and success is great. New Saints have had a patchy season in comparison to previous years. They're 12 points clear now, but it wasn't all that way. I think that they lost a lot of momentum with the European campaign, and Penabont were one of the teams that tried to capitalise on it and stayed with the New Saints for a while, but their consistency was outmatched by the reigning champions. So, the New Saints, I mean, he's setting up a bit of a fortress, really, Craig. New Saints are a Marmite team, really, because of where they are, because of sort of thing, that the only professional team in the Welsh League setup. But their presence does something for the Welsh League going forward into Europe. When people talked about the advantage of getting points to therefore have bigger cash pots and more teams qualifying, well, the New Saints won a lot of new fans actually with the campaign this time around. As I say, they virtually won the league now, I would say, to Penabont, and what is left in the league now is the scramble for the remaining European places, which I think we got 3 this year. Penabont and Haverfordwest County are in the driving seat there. New Saints 63 points, Penabont 51, Haverfordwest 48. Carnarvon are closest with 41, but there should be a 4-way playoff between Carnarvon, Cardiff, Met, Bala, and the top of the relegation part of the table, for the final position. What happens in Welsh football, the Cymru Premiership, they play with 12 teams at the moment. And after the first round of playing home and away, the top 6 and the bottom 6 form 2 separate leagues, and top 6 called the Championship section and the bottom 6 the relegation section. So life gets a bit complicated in some ways. People complain about it because they say, oh, I end up playing Bala Town 4 times in a season. The fans don't want that. No disrespect to Bala, sorry. But it is what it is. They're going to change it at the end of next season, which is quite exciting. 4 more teams added. It'd be interesting to see just what's going to go on. But so at the moment, as I say, it is business as usual at the top. At the bottom, well, Aberystwyth, we if you grew up in Aberystwyth and you follow the football team, every year has been a disaster. They've always flirted with relegation. The last 2 seasons, they have survived on the very last game of the season with a dramatic, very sensational wins. This season, they are 8 points adrift. At the bottom, there's 4 games left, I think. It's not looking good. They've lost 19 out of 26. The team, I feel so sorry for the manager, Antonio Corbisiero, who's an Aberystwyth legend. He's a Llanelli legend. And he's come on board, and it's been very difficult because, yes, you can motivate people who are there, but how do you get in the strengths? How do you persuade people, stronger players, to come in? Oh, by the way, we're bottom of the league. We're 8 points adrift. We look like we're going down. Come and play for us, though. You know, it's a bit hard. So he's had it tough all season. He's had some notable wins. Carnarvon Town can tell you that. But he's also had some. There's been some shocking displays, and I feel the manager, in this case, the current manager, is not to blame, and I hope he stays on whatever happens, because I've always found him a good person to talk to in the past and look at the work he's done. Other teams in the bottom 6, Barrytown United look like they'll be in the playoff for the extra place. Nomads, who have been right up there when Neil Gibson was in charge, are really floundering. Flint Town United and Britain Ferry are fighting it out with Newcastle, who's going down. It's going to be tough if Newtown and Aberystwyth both go down, because there'll be no teams in the top flight from Mid Wales, and that is possibly a reflection of how things are developing these days. So it's all to play for.
Gary, you mentioned about the way the league splits and the upcoming rebrand of the JD Cymru. We have I got some really interesting guests coming on in the future weeks, including Jack Sharp, who's the head of domestic football in Wales. So I mean, I'll obviously get the FAW feelings on it and whatnot. But I wondered what you think, or what the vibe is that you generally get from the Welsh League clubs regarding this upcoming rebrand and change to the way they do things.
I think it's welcome. I think people are fed up of playing so few teams in a season and playing the same teams. I mean, the Welsh Premier is desperate for more attention, more people going to the games, and possibly because the more well-supported teams are, as Carnarvon and perhaps Penabont accepted, plus a few others, but the majority of them are in Tier 2. And, it's what the Welsh League needs to do is to drive the profile. And I'm sure if you got Noel Mooney on the show, then I'm sure he'd be telling you that they need to drive that profile. They need to like stand up and say that when the Gary Linekers of this world don't stand up and say, oh, it's just a farmers league. No, it's more than that. It's a national league. But they've had decades of ignorance from the mainstream media, and I don't count the likes of Rob Phillips with that at all. But if you look at, go to the BBC website and have a look for Welsh football. Have a look for Welsh football outside of the EFL, and it's difficult to find. Certainly in the headlines, you don't find it at all. And we're part of the UK, so it's that's the thing they're up against, is this sort of ignorance that people are dismissing the league structure, and it shows with the crowds. And of course, post COVID, the crowds are slowly coming back, but they aren't as big as the equivalent size teams in England. Say, I don't know, looking at around the more industrial areas, perhaps. But if you look at Matlock Town, for example, they probably got much more coverage than Ballatown, for example.
Yeah, definitely. I think the more that the Cymru Premier can spread the word and get people through the gates, I think that was something we talked about with Jack Turner last week, is getting fans in the grounds and getting people aware of it, and whether that's on social media, whether that's through Cymru Sport's coverage, whether that's through Scorio's coverage. It's about getting the word of the Welsh League out and about, and finding people who maybe don't go and watch the EFL clubs each week, but it's maybe they're not aware, or I don't know, people get out of the habit, I guess. But
yeah,
I think I look at the kind of the revitalization of Merthyr's following, for instance, in recent years. And I think Merthyr Town, everything I see about them, they seem to be a club that's kind of on the up in the EFL system, or in the English pyramid. And I think it is possible for the Welsh League clubs to do the same if they can find the right avenue of getting those fans in the gates ultimately.
Yeah, and the problem is, I mean, Merthyr were on the verge of being in line for promotion in the conference at one point, before they had their sort of demise as Merthyr Tydfil, and before that, you had the likes of Bangor City were in there and were very strong contenders in the conference, and previously the Northern Premier League for many seasons. Reached the FA Trophy final, lost to Northwich Victoria in the 80s. But that was, and they were well supported, but again, that was in the English system, and it is getting the Welsh League system recognised more and accepted. And you're saying that people, as you say, people aren't necessarily into EFL. You may have Cardiff City fans, but hey, if you can't make a Cardiff City away game, why not go somewhere else? I remember Wrexham, to their credit, once tweeted out, "Hey boys, Wrexham aren't playing this weekend. Here are all the local games," and they went through all the ones in Tier 3 and Tier 4 around with the links to them, and I thought that's a lot of respect. Yeah, why not pick up a second team? Okay, I support Cardiff, say, but if I can't get to Cardiff and I fancy a game of football, well, let's see what Curra are doing. Why not? It's only down the road. It's a bus journey. Jack was superb last week. Actually, I put that particular interview up on our podcast so people could listen to it. But I thought he was spot on with what he said about the league and TNS and this dilemma. Yeah.
Yeah, he was excellent, and I think I've got no doubt we'll get him on again at some point. And showing my ignorance, if I had known that the Nathaniel Cup final was this weekend, I probably would have sent Craig a message and tried to get him on. I'm sure he's got a very busy week, but you never know if you don't ask the question, as they say. Geraint, is the final on Friday? Is that on Cymru Sport?
It is. Matt Rowley has confirmed that he will be there. I just haven't put it up on the website yet, but that will be presently. And he'll be doing some live coverage, I believe, Alan Stubbs might also be there to do some interviewing as well. So yeah, we'll look forward to it. You never know. Aberystwyth are a bit of a Frankenstein. You never know who's going to turn up. And there are some movers and shakers in that team that on their day can deliver. Johnny Evans is a real handful and runs himself into the ground. Niall Flint, classy player. And at the back you got Louis Bradford. And yeah, I could go on. We could be all day talking about CNS though. So we'll see what happens. And maybe you should ask Craig next week.
Indeed, yes. Geraint, thank you for your time. I will be joined by Cymru Sport commentator Spencer Hopwood in just a second.
Cymru Sport.
So to finish us off this evening, I'm delighted to be joined by Spencer Hopwood, who is Cymru Sport commentator. How are you, Spencer? You okay, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you?
Very good, mate. Very good. Coming to the end of the show now, and I always enjoy having a little chat with the commentators and see what's coming up over the weekend. Where are you off to this weekend?
I've got a weekend off this week, but I might try and pop over, go and see my local team, Canton Celtic. They've got a decent game this weekend, so I might try and pop over there. I've been over there for a few weeks now, so I think it's about time I get myself back over there.
Yeah, good stuff. So with the commentaries on Cymru Sport,
yeah,
what was your most recent commentary?
My most recent would have been just before Christmas. Just before Christmas, I think it was.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Let me just bring up the results here. Remind myself of what it was. It was the one. It was one on the 28th against Newport City. Newport City won it 1-0 at our place.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, and you enjoying doing them?
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. This is my first season doing proper in-person commentaries and just get to go around to different grounds and different stadiums and being quite new to Welsh football, being able to discover new clubs and all new people has been a lot of fun this season. I've really done quite a few enjoyable games. Quite a few enjoyable games this season. So yeah, it has been a lot of fun. It has been something I've really been enjoying.
Were you one to before you started doing commentary for Cymru Sport? Were you one who would like to go to kind of different games, do a bit of ground hopping?
Not too much. I was only mainly focused on Canton Celtic, like before that, because I was doing my match reports for the club, for their programs. So I was mainly just focused on them. But then I found something online about Cymru Sport looking for commentators, and I've been doing some commentary from home or online for a couple of years before that. And so I thought, you know what, give in person commentaries a go, and it has been a lot of fun. And like I say, I've been to a few different teams now. I've been to Newport City Stadium. I've been to Costa Keeliog as well, and also a very fun one I had was New Inn, my local village, my hometown village. They had Britain Ferry in the cup, like first ever time a Premier League team had been to New Inn, and so being able to walk 5 minutes from my house to a commentary, that was quite nice. That was quite nice, and not have to do like an hour's worth of travelling or whatever beforehand. So that was quite fun.
Yeah. And did you say your local club's Cymru Celtic? Is it?
Yeah, they're my main local team. New Inn is like a 5-minute walk, but Cymru is like my proper local team. So they're the ones I've been focusing on for the last couple of years before I started doing this commentary.
Okay, so were you did you say you wrote stuff for their program?
Yeah,
Cymru Celtic, yeah.
Yeah, for a couple of seasons, I was doing I was doing their program, their match reports. So their match reports. So I'll be going to all their home games, and I'll be writing up the reports, and then they'll be printing it in their programs. So now I've got a big box somewhere just full of all the programs with all my reports in, which is quite cool.
How did you get into that?
I just fell into it. I just fell into it, to be honest. I have no idea. I started doing a few for I can never pronounce the name of the website. Club Pal Droid, something like that.
Yeah, Club Pal Droid.
But being from East London, all these Welsh pronunciations is getting a while to get used to. But I did it. I did a few for them at the end of the season. 2 seasons ago, something like that. And then I did a few for them. And then the guy who was doing the ones for the club for Cymru, he was giving that up. And so they put a thing up on Twitter and saying that they want someone to do it. So I thought, you know what, I'm already doing it for these. But if I can do it for Cymru and actually get it in programs, which being quite an old school historical football nerd is always quite cool to be getting your work and your names into physical programs, which has always been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can't fault you. When you were younger, is that something which you would have wanted, like something you looked towards doing, like doing commentaries or covering football?
Yeah, I've always sort of knew I wanted to get into football somehow. Like at first when I was really young, and all my mates would be saying, "Oh, I want to be a footballer. But at first I was saying, no, I don't do football. I want to be a manager first, because I was and still am addicted to the old FM games.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I'm still addicted to them. Yes. So that was my first dream, to be a football manager. And then after a while, I started really properly listening to all the old commentators on the radio, and it just sort of stuck in the back of my head that maybe one day that would be something that I would quite like to get into, because I quite enjoyed how especially listening on the radio, you've got to be really descriptive. You've got to really paint the picture for people who are listening. And I really did enjoy some of the old ones on like BBC Radio 5 Live and some of the local radio stations round about where I was back in the day. And so it's all just something that just stuck in my head. But then just as it does, life just happens, and it just never kind of happened. And then like I say, a few years ago, I just started doing the online commentary, and then I fell into doing this with Cymru Sport.
Nice. So, what's been your favourite game that you've commentated on so far, do you think?
Oh, I think there's two, and that Newin one against Britain Ferry, just because the whole village came out for that game. There's no here in Newin, there's no, they're like full fifth tier, something like that, and there's no stands, there's no grounds, there's no it was all free for everybody to get in. And so the whole village came out for that one game, and I had to bring up my own table from home to put all my commentary equipment on, and it was just a lot of fun, just being surrounded by people as I'm trying to do my commentary. I've got people all around me getting excited during the game and just being quite loud. So that was quite fun. That was quite fun. I also enjoyed one I did with Newport earlier in the season when they played against Trefellyn. That was a fun game. Newport City are a very good club, a very good club. I think you were just saying just before I came on about Wrexham and about how they advertise games, how they advertise games once. Well, Newport City do this thing where if you're a Newport County fan and you've got a season ticket for them, you can get into Newport City for free. Like if they're playing like on the Friday night, or if they're playing on the weekend and Newport are away or whatever, they do a thing where Newport City fans can get in for free. So I think that's a really good thing they do, in a way of getting their name out there. And also I quite enjoyed that because Newport City have actually got a proper nice warm commentary box. Mm. So you haven't got to be out in the stands freezing your whatever off for 2 hours while you're commentating. So I really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun, and I got to interview Lee Trundle after that game. So that was also a lot of fun getting to meet him. That was quite cool.
Well, as a Cardiff fan, I was going to say something then, but
Yeah, I was sort of thinking, do I bring it up? Do I bring it up? I thought,
nah,
I thought it's one of the best interviews that I've done yet, so I thought
yeah.
I might just bring it up. It's mental how he's still going. He's still doing really well at like 48 now.
Yeah, he's someone I've been after actually for a podcast for a long time. Is Trundle. He's an interesting chap, you know. So
he's definitely interesting. Yeah. He's definitely a character. She still wants to keep going till he's 50. So he told me when I interviewed him.
So where did you say he's playing?
Trefellin.
Oh, okay.
That's where he is now. He's got I was just checking before I came on here. I was just checking on his stats and whether he's got 16 goals this season and 4 assists apparently. So even at 48, he's still doing better than what I would be at 34.
Yeah, I mean, look, whatever as Cardiff fans think of him, you can't deny that at a certain level he was a goal scorer.
He has always been that. He has always been that.
But enough about Lee Trundle anyway.
Yeah, let's move on.
No, it's interestingly enough, we didn't mention earlier that the Welsh women drew with Sweden recently. That's an excellent result for them in their qualifying fixtures. So, Spencer, where would you like to take your commentary over the next year or two?
Over the next year or two, I'd like to get to games further afield. I'd like to get to games further afield. I'd like to get to doing more games, and I'd like to try and do some Premier League games. I haven't done any Premier League games yet, and I seem to be. I don't know what it is, but to me, just a Cymru South just seems to be more interesting for me than the Premier League at the moment. So if I can try and get some games in the Premier League, I can actually get some interest and meet some people who are involved with the Premier League. I think that could be. I think that could be quite cool. But the Cymru South is really close as this season's finishing, whereas obviously the Premier League isn't quite so close. So but it would be quite nice to get some games involving some more Premier League teams would be quite nice.
Yeah. And how is your Cymru and Celtic doing this year?
Not very well. We had last season, and for the season, a couple of seasons before that, we had a striker called Alex Bonfren, and last season he was top scorer in the whole league, and he pretty much kept Cymru and Celtic up on his own last season. He's now left this season to go to a team in the 7th tier in England. I think it is 6th or 7th tier, something. Yeah, I think it's 7th tier. He's gone to, and we kind of had a rocky season after that. But since January he's been gone, we've brought in a few players whose names escape me right now. But we have brought in a few players, and we started picking up a few results. So we're now I think it's 2 or 3 places above the relegation zone. We are now, so with only a few games left, we should hopefully be okay to stay up. But before Christmas, before the January window opened, it was really looking dodgy that we might be in quite a bit of danger of going down. But I think we're like 6 or 7 points above the relegation zone now, so we should just about be safe, I believe.
Yeah, hopefully for you should be safe. My son goes up to uni up that way as well, so
cool.
He'll be happy.
Yeah.
Spencer, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Really appreciate it. Enjoyed the chat, and I'm sure we'll have you on again soon. Take care, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Spencer Hopwood there, the Cymru Sport commentator. I want to say a massive thank you to all the guests this evening. Former Wales and Cardiff City defender Rhys Weston joined us earlier on. We had Luke Robinson from the Up the Villa podcast. And of course, we had the fan view from Jamie Anderson. And then we had Grassroots referee Jonathan Geraint from Cymru Sport talked us through what's going on with the JD Cymru leagues. And of course, the Nathaniel Cup final this weekend. Please do check it out. And we will be back. And of course, not forgetting Spencer, who's just this second left us as well. So we've had lots of interesting guests as usual every Wednesday for 2 hours from 7 till 9. The first hour is Cardiff City related. The second hour is all things Welsh football. We have special guests debate, fan opinion, latest news, and much, much more. We have not let you down with the guests once yet. It's been absolutely prolific every single Wednesday. We like to vary it up. We like to have a good chat with our guests and get a feel for what they're doing. And of course, we like to add in a few big names as well, just to keep you on your toes. I will be back next Wednesday at 7 p.m. If you're watching the video version on YouTube, please do subscribe to Cardiff City World. That's a real help to us. And of course, make sure you give Cymru Sport a follow across social media. And remember to listen into their commentaries starting Friday with the Nathaniel Cup, where they'll be covering that. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you to everyone who's joined in the comments and all that good stuff. Please do give the show a share. Tell your friends, spread the word, all that good stuff. Until next time, I bid you farewell.
Wow! What a goal!
Be a part of the action and help Cymru Sport to cover more games across the country.
It's 3-2! Oh my words! Where did that come from?
Your business can sponsor a commentary, reaching football fans with your message at the same time as supporting our live commentary of Welsh sports. Contact us today by emailing advertising@cymrusport.cymru.